Hello, everyone. Excuse me. Well, we're waiting to see what the House is going to do on a continuing resolution. I think all of you know I'm not a fan of government shutdowns. I've seen a few of them over the years. They never have produced a policy change, and they've always been a loser for Republicans politically. On another issue, we're looking forward to seeing President Zelensky on Thursday. I think it's always good to remind everyone that a good portion of the money allocated to Ukraine is being spent in this country to rebuild our industrial base. It's also important to remember we've not lost a single American. And so these people in Ukraine who are fighting for their independence are taking on one of the two big adversaries we have, Russia and China. It seems to me we ought to be helping.
The Biden border crisis is the worst in American history, so bad that even the mayor of New York is now saying that it would destroy New York. Evidently, New York is finding out that every state with the policies that we have in place right now ends up being a border state. And in fact, just over the weekend, there were 20,000 encounters with people trying to come across the border illegally. And I don't think the August numbers are out just yet. They're supposed to be out by now. I don't think they are, but we expect that to be the highest number in the month of August of this entire year, which is a record. So clearly, this administration and cities like New York and Chicago, which are sanctuary cities, are learning what it's like and what border communities have been dealing with for a really long time. This is a 50-state issue. It's not a one-state issue, and it is clearly preventable. The Biden administration canceled the wall, eliminated all the common sense border policies that were working very effectively before they came to office, and the consequence is an open border where literally millions of people now, over 6 million people, have been encountered trying to come across the border illegally, not to mention another 1.5 million or so gotaways. This is a preventable crisis, one that the Biden administration has chosen by their policies not to do anything about, and the American people and the cities in this country, large and small, are now having to deal with the consequences.
Joe Biden has surrendered our southern border to criminals, to gang members, to drug dealers. This past month, we're looking at close to 250,000 individuals, illegal immigrants, coming across the border. And what happens? They vanish. The cartels that are running this is a $1 billion sophisticated criminal enterprise which is flooding our border with illegal immigrants and drugs. And from a criminal standpoint, they're coming from all around the world, from China, from Africa, from the Middle East. Border towns used to be Arizona and in Texas. But when you see the city council in Chicago and the mayor of New York all claiming that the illegal immigrants are destroying their cities, and remember, these are so-called sanctuary cities. Every state's been impacted. Certainly my home state of Wyoming is no exception. The fentanyl coming in across from Mexico is now a major killer in every state in the country. And our incompetent president and the Democrats continue with their head in the sand. And now what do they want to do? They want to defund ICE, Immigration Custom Enforcement. They want to use the money to set up a welcome wagon of housing and benefits for illegal immigrants. Look, the Republicans have the right idea to deal with the border. It's called Secure the Border Act of 2023. It involves technology, manpower, and a physical barrier to prevent illegal immigration. That's the way to provide security and safety to our communities and actually secure the border.
The butcher of Tehran is on U.S. soil right now. Despite being sanctioned, Iran's president flew into New York City with a Biden-approved visa. Now he's at the UN peddling his propaganda. All of us can remember 9/11. It was the day that our nation suffered our greatest terrorist attack on our soil. And yet on this 9/11, President Biden took $6 billion, put that $6 billion into the hands of the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism. Biden is putting more Americans at risk by greenlighting Iran's violent activities and increasing its nuclear capabilities. This is a direct result of Biden's failed appeasement strategy. And I'm going to call Biden's bluff on this, folks. The world knows that Iran has already called Biden's bluff on this. His administration has to stop the pursuit of this flawed Iranian nuclear deal.
The West Virginia National Guard, at the request of the governor, joined in with the Texas National Guard at Operation Lone Star along the border along Eagle Pass. Our Guard members that went volunteered to go. And after talking with them just last week, I did talk with them. Over the course of 40 days, they encountered 10,000 illegal immigrants coming across. This is not at the ports of entry. This is aside from the ports of entry. To which one of the Guard members, young man, said the whole experience was shocking at what he saw. He saw children that were dehydrated, young babies that were not in good health conditions, crossing with their families being used as ways to get in. We also, one of the Guard members from West Virginia was a medical professional. She went down and administered medical help at the southern border to the Texas Guard and also the West Virginia Guard, and also any of the immigrants that needed it as they were coming in, the illegals. And they had not had health care down there at that portion of the border for the last 6 months. And she said she worked 24/7. And again, was shocked at what she was seeing. This is an utter failure by this administration. The interior border policy strengthening enforcement is not there. You've heard my colleagues talk about it. It is a 50-state problem. I'm proud of our state. I'm proud of our National Guard to go down and assist. But this issue, when we get these numbers from August, are going to be shocking as well, not just to our National Guard, but to the rest of the country.
26 years ago, in 1997, is when Hong Kong was handed back to the Chinese by the UK. It's when the Titanic was a hit movie. It's also the last time that Congress passed all the appropriation bills before the end of the fiscal year. As we stand here today, we are now swimming in $33 trillion of debt. Deficits projected to be close to $2 trillion going forward. And this institution still can't get appropriations passed by the beginning of the next fiscal year. We were in the same position last year. We've been in this same position the last 25 years. And I guarantee you, unless something changes, we'll be right back here a year from now. We'll be right back here in 25, in 26, in 27, in 28, as we have now seen this occur over and over again. Will be the 26th consecutive year. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. The budgeting process in Washington is severely broken. We need to do two things. We need to stop the government shutdowns, pass the Prevent the Government Shutdown bill that Senator Langford and Senator Hassan have, this past committee, and put the pain back on Congress, not on the American people, if Congress is is unable to do its job of getting the appropriations bills passed before the beginning of the next fiscal year. Without proper reforms and holding members of Congress accountable, we're on a runaway truck with no off-ramp.
Leader
Alex?
McConnell. Do you have a reaction to Leader Schumer loosening the Senate dress code? And if Senate Republicans are back in the majority, would you require senators to wear a coat and tie and business attire on the Senate floor?
Yeah, look, I think I'm pretty safe in saying most, if not all, Republican senators think we ought to dress up to go to work. And so I can't imagine that we're going to be wearing jeans on the Senate floor anytime soon.
At what point is it proper for the Senate to get involved in this spending issue? I know they dealt with the bill last week, 91-7, but is the Senate past its point? Did the Senate lose time deferring so long to the House because it takes longer to process things over here, and is that going to cause a shutdown?
There's so many variables in your question, Chad, that I can't predict in advance how this is going to unfold. What I do think is critically important to the American people is for the government not to shut down. Not to shut down. That's job one. With regard to the appropriations process, it had been my hope that we'd be able to pass a series of minibuses, and I think the Speaker's hope that he'd be able to pass all 12. That still might happen, but it's...
Not in the next week, though. I mean, that's why I'm asking about the timing of the Senate.
It still might happen, but I can't predict exactly how this ends. We'll see what the House does and act accordingly.
Senator McConnell. Leader McConnell.
Do you support Speaker McCarthy's continuing resolution as written?
Well, obviously I support what the Speaker's trying to accomplish, because he's trying to avoid a government shutdown, and he's trying to help with an appropriations process so that we have something close to a normal process, which Steve just indicated we haven't had since 1997. So we're pulling for the Speaker and hoping we can move forward.
Leader McConnell.